Yes, like.
Hello and welcome back to Patrick of Coonawarra's live Facebook and Instagram Friday. So my name's Luke Tokashu and I'm the winemaker and owner of Patrick of Coonawarra, and I'm joined by our marketing manager Tash.
Hi everyone.
So today we're going to be talking all about whiskey and in particular a single malt Tasmanian whiskey. So you might be wondering, what is a Coonawarra winery doing with a single malt Tasmanian whiskey? But I thought I'd just give you a bit of a background about what this whiskey is and how it came to be. I make some wine for a company called Naked Wines, who is a really good online community of wine people that we produce this wine exclusively for Naked Wines, and the Naked Wines members basically crowdfund the winemakers, all 100% independent winemakers, to be able to produce some wines exclusive for them. So they get some really good wines, get to know the winemakers, get to chat online and do a lot of interesting things as well. So the wines that I sell on Naked Wines are under the name LTD, which is Luke Tokashu Direct. So we've been working with them for about 5 or 6 years now. It's been a fantastic relationship, and 3 years ago I got the opportunity to fulfill a program that they call the Winemakers Fantasy. So what that is they give it to 3 winemakers a year, and they can basically go out and do whatever they want, make some wine, go overseas, travel, make some wine, bring it back to Australia, and then that ends up being made into a product. And one of my passions was whiskey, and so I pitched the idea to the Naked Wines community, and they've all voted for it, and I got a big grant to be able to go down to Tasmania and make single malt Tasmanian whiskey. So I used old Cabernet barrels for this, so I kept a bit of a wine theme to it. So I took barrels just like these behind me, and we got them resized into 20 litre barrels. And what that does, it gives the whiskey a lot more surface area to actually work with, and means it picks up a lot more of that oak flavour a lot quicker. It stayed down in Tassie for 3 years, 2.5 years in barrel, and then we took it out and then got it bottled, and it's available on the Naked Wines website. So today we're just going to go through a couple of cocktails for a bit of a Friday happy hour.
Or one cocktail, just multiples of the thing.
So one of the good ways that we like to drink whiskey is very traditional whiskey sour. So it's pretty basic. It has 3 main ingredients, being lemon, sugar and whiskey with a dash of egg white. So Tash and I are both going to make one up and show you the recipe and how we do it. So
I'm just along for the ride. I've got nothing to add about whiskey expertise other than making myself a whiskey sour.
So first of all, we've got a lemon juice mix here. So this is lemons that have been basically pulped and juiced, and then that's diluted with half water, half lemon juice. Fresh lemons is always best, so we like to use fresh lemons. And then we have a sugar solution, and the sugar solution is made by boiling about 500 grams of sugar in 1 litre of water. So whatever it is, double the amount of water, and that gives you a 50% sugar solution. This is a pretty standard solution you can use in a whole vast array of cocktails. And then of course we have the single malt Tasmanian whiskey. So this recipe, basically, first of all, a little bit of ice in your lovely shaker. So you want to have 4 shots of the lemon solution, and this can be sort of tailored to your taste as well. If you like it a little bit sweeter, have a bit less, and a little bit sour, we'll put a little bit more lemon in there.
How many am I putting in there?
4 of these.
Of the big one?
Yep.
So I was just checking Instagram to make sure I could see comments. I don't think there's enough for 4, so I'm going to do 2.
Okay. So then, followed by the sugar solution, we're going to use the other side of our little measuring cylinder here, and we're going to use 15 mils of the sugar solution. Now you can use a bit more, a bit less, if you like it sweeter, a bit more. Like that.
Thanks.
And then of course, whiskey. So full shot of whiskey in this one. This will give you about 2 drinks, so it's not too strong.
Big one?
Yep, full 30 mils of that.
Ooh, we're making a mess.
And then a teaspoon of egg white. So this is fresh egg white. And this is a sort of interesting fact. So this ties it a little bit back to winemaking. We actually use egg white in some of the red wines that we make. And what that does, egg white is a protein, and that basically binds up a lot of the bitter tannins in the red wine. And it's doing exactly the same thing in this, but also giving it a nice sort of crema on the top. So after that,
Ice?
shake away.
Ice?
Started with ice.
Oh! Can I have the... And so we don't have small ice cubes, only large ones, so this might not sound as fancy as it does in a cocktail bar, but either way. You can roll.
And shake away.
Oh, no, it's not that. Easy.
And so what this is doing is basically cooling it down and also giving the egg white a little bit of froth on the top. And then pour it straight into a glass.
Oh, we forgot garnish as well.
Thanks.
Mmm.
And there you have it.
Cheers.
Make a whiskey sour. So then the other cocktail that I like a little bit more, and which is what you probably should be drinking when you're drinking such a good quality Tasmanian whiskey, is basically a cube of ice and then straight over ice on the rocks. This is how I like to drink it, so something a little bit different.
I'll drink your sours. Lovely. So I've got a question from Jason Jackson. I feel like it's a joke, I'm not sure. But any squash frogs on the menu, Toppy?
Squash frogs, that's a 18-year-old favourite of ours that we used to have here at the local Prince of Wales.
Sorry, everyone.
So a little bit about the whiskey itself. So it is single malt. So what that means that it's made from malted barley, one strain and one mashed in this particular one. So it's only one distillation, and that's put into the barrels for 2.5 years, and then basically comes out of barrel, gets diluted back to about 42%, which this is, and then put into these bottles and then shipped out. So you can jump onto the Naked Wines website and have a look. Just type in LTD and you'll find the whiskey there, or get in touch with us and we'll be able to point you in the right direction and hook you up with some whiskey.
And it was a very small batch, so I can vouch for the fact that we sat down in a small shed hand labelling all of these. So there might be a few bottles with a front label.
Yes.
So yeah, it's a lot of fun. How many bottles?
1,000 bottles, yeah. So if you've been down to Tasmania, there's some fantastic whiskey there, so it's worth checking out. But while in isolation, we can deliver it to you, so that's all we can do.
I have a question for you. You may have answered this whilst I was distracted, but single malt, what does that mean? Did you answer that?
Yes, single malt. So they've only used one batch of barley for this one.
Is it more premium if it's single malt?
It certainly is, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So you can use different types of malt as well. So you can use corn, and then that would be more of a bourbon base. But single malt barley is generally what they make in Scotland, and that's what we do here.
Okay. And is there anyone that does multiple malt?
Yes, there's a lot.
What do they call it?
They're blended. So you can have multiple years that you put into the same batch, like you would normally see in the bottle shop, and that's just generally a blended style of whiskey rather than the single malt.
Okay. And the colour, does that come? Where does the colour
so the colour's pretty interesting. So you can probably just see it's like a nice deep brown with a little bit of orange, and I sort of just see a little bit of a red tinge in this whiskey coming from the wine that used to be in the barrels. this goes into barrel being a clear liquid, and then after those 2 years, it actually starts to pick up the colour all from the oak. So this one, because the oak had red wine in it, you're getting a little bit of that red wine colour coming through. And on the palate, I think it gives it a bit of berry fruit as well, which is a bit of a twist on your normal sort of confectionery and toffee and those sort of flavours you'd get in a whiskey.
Cool. And so you obviously use Cabernet barrels. First question, how old were the barrels?
They were about 10 years old, so they had wine in them for about 10 years before we got them resized. Yeah.
Cool. And with a normal whiskey producer, what's the normal oak they use?
You can use a number of different oaks. So a lot of whiskey producers are using old port and sherry barrels, which give you some interesting flavours as well. But in Tasmania, they do use some Pinot barrels because there's obviously a lot of Pinot made in Tasmania. So that's something they're experimenting with. And the difference between a bourbon and a whiskey, a bourbon has to go into 100% new American oak, whereas a whiskey goes into generally French oak. So.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Well, that makes sense. I have another question, but I think I've forgotten it. Oh, yes. You're drinking it straight. What are some notes that, because you had some interesting flavoured words you used a second ago. What would you?
So I think you get some nice fruitiness in this whiskey, coming from the barrels mainly, and you're getting a lot of oak flavours. So there's vanilla, toffee, that sort of leathery character as well coming through, but really smooth on the palate. So the good thing about using well-aged wine barrels is that most of the tannins are already taken out from the when you used it for wine, so you're getting a lovely smooth whiskey, and the length and finish on this whiskey is really good. You don't want any sort of really rubbery flavours. You want a nice smokiness from the barrel, but without being too charred or bitter.
Yeah. So I have lots of questions. I think I don't know much about whiskey, but my dad got me onto Lefroy back in the day, and I like Lefroy, but it's quite intense, like peatiness.
Peaty,
so what?
Yes.
This doesn't. Does this have it?
No, this is unpeated whiskey. A peated whiskey is when they get peat, which is basically like a moss, and then they smoke the moss through the barley before they make the mash, and that gives it that real smoky flavour. So Lefroy is really renowned for that real peatiness, which is adding a full another dimension to the whiskey, and they're really smoky and cloves and spice and things like that. But this
so I'm going to just check if there are any questions on Instagram. Annette says that she loves your LT whiskey. Straight, in fact, she recommends. What was I going to say? So for everyone listening, we don't sell this on the website, as Luke said, how to find it, but stay tuned for potentially us releasing a different small batch later on towards the end of the year under the Patrick banner. Not sure yet, don't know what we're doing. We're always doing something behind the scenes. So what I do recommend is jumping onto our website and adding yourself to the mailing list. I write them, we're a small team, so it's really not like we outsource writing emails. I write them, I design them. So that will keep you in the loop, and if we do release anything, you'll see through there, or through socials obviously, but VIPs always get first notice of this. I think that's all I wanted to say. So I'm just going to check on Insta if there's any questions. Sorry everyone. Nah, I think we are good.
So thanks very much for tuning in. We'll be back again on Monday. I hope you all have a safe weekend, and cheers.
Yeah. Cheers. Oh, actually, I should go over there again. Sorry.